Hello and welcome to episode 82. I have to check every time. I look before I press go and then I still have to check myself. Episode 82 of the Mouse Makes Knitting podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse, and in that basket ought to be my co-host Poppy, but she's off doing important cat things somewhere else. Right, I'm going to start with some thank yous. Thank you everyone who sent good wishes for Rose last week. If you follow me on Instagram or if you've seen on the community tab here, Rose was getting a lot better by Friday last week. Unfortunately, Saturday, Dave got up early hours, went downstairs and found her collapsed. We had to rush her to the emergency vet and there was nothing to be done. So, yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to cry in front of everybody. Which is why, Zoom ladies, I'm not around on Zoom at the moment because generally crying is my natural state of being at the moment. So, moving swiftly on from that before I set myself off. A thank you to everybody who's ordered. If you had ordered up to Sunday, your yarn is in the post to you. It went off this morning. With the exception of, there are 2 orders to go to America. One came in a bit later and missed the cut-off, so there's a couple of weeks leeway on that one. The other one, I have tried to post, but apparently Royal Mail have been the subject of a cyber attack. And for the last few days, it's been impossible to book a parcel to go overseas. So I can't remember when you ordered, but I've still got quite a bit of time left on my 14 working days thing. So I'm going to keep on trying every day. I checked it again this morning. It's still not possible, but they've got all sorts of government bods working on it. So hopefully that will be sorted by the end of this week, and then both your orders will be on their way. I've got a random bit of hair. Will be on their way again. Excuse me while I fiddle with my hair. Okay. Excuse me. The Starflake mail. I'm aware that I have had as yet to tell you about any prizes. I will do that next week. I'm gathering them together. And I've got a frog again. Oh, I'm gathering prizes together and I'll show you next week. I'm going to have to pause and get a drink. Sorry. There, I think that's better. Prizes for the Starflake mail. Yes, if you're entering, there's a thread on Ravelry for chatter and also for finished objects on the Mouses Makes page. If you're entering on Instagram, it is simply #Starflake, just to show your colours or whatever, and #Starflake FO for your finished object. If you finished, well done. I have not. So I might as well show you how far I've got while we're talking about the Starflake. This might be a bit boring this week because for various reasons I've not got much knitting done again. Though in my defence I did spend 3 days dyeing yarn, so yeah, that's my excuse. Last time you saw it, I was just about to start the brioche section. Let me squeeze it along. I still haven't put it on a longer cord because it's actually quite convenient to work on this length. So that's my brioche. I think I've got the hang of the shaping. So you've got a point and you've got the opposite of a point, whatever the opposite of a point is. English teachers, you better help me out here. All I can think of is zenith and nadir, and that's not right at all. So there's the point, and the opposite of a point, whatever that might be. I chose to use my contrast yarn as the front yarn, and I've got my main yarn, the paler one, on the back. I'm actually thinking I should have done it the other way round, but I have zero intention of pulling it down and starting again. I think I'm a little over halfway through. I have been enjoying knitting it. I do enjoy brioche anyway. It's quite rhythmic and meditative, and you can just slowly work your way along the row. I don't feel the need to rush with it like I do if I'm stocking stitching round and round on the body of a sweater or something. So this has been quite calming and meditative, and probably the ideal thing to be working on just at the moment. I'm sorry I'm not showing it off terribly well. Let me see if I can. It's never going to work though, because the edge is up and down, but you can kind of get an idea. There you go. It's coming along. The yarns I'm using are, the purple is Cascade Heritage in ultraviolet, and I'm using two, I'm calling them two contrast yarns, but actually because of their placement they're my main yarns. That's these two. So the paler one is the one I'm using for the brioche. This one I'm using in the stocking stitch sections, so you can see the pretty colours a bit better. So that's all I've done on that, although it doesn't look very much. It did take quite a lot of time because, well, if you're familiar with brioche you know, but if you're not, you knit each row twice. So you go along with one colour, then you go back to the beginning and go along with the other colour, then you turn it round, do the same thing. Oh, here she comes. You're late. Do the same thing on the other side. Her Majesty has deigned to join us. Is your business concluded? Jolly good. Are you a good girl? Thank you. She's huffing at me. She huffs. Did you see that? She went. Honestly, that cat is like a grumpy woman in a cat fur skin. Completely lost the thread of what I was talking about, so we'll move on to the next thing because my brain is scattered to the four winds at the moment. Anthology throw. This is going to be painful, I'm sorry. And I've just realised behind me, this, I did share it on Instagram. That was a present from Ewan for Christmas that he specially commissioned from a friend of ours who is Roundel Print on Instagram, if you would like something similar for yourselves. I don't know if you can see what it says at the bottom. Let me look. No, I don't think you can because the chair's in the way. It says if I'm sitting, I'm knitting, which is true. The other thing that I've done a tiny bit of work on is my anthology throw that I'm knitting with my Advent from my Yarny Corner. Honestly, my brain. So, the last time I showed it to you, I was there. And that marker is dangling. So I've done that much. Which again, doesn't look like very much. But the rows are so long that it does take quite a time. I can't remember how many stitches I've got. It's well over 500. 576. So, again, this is quite a nice thing to sit on if you're watching a programme to sit on. Did I say to sit on? I meant to knit on. I don't know what I said. I'm not sure I should be doing this really. Because mostly it's just stocking stitch. Alex and Danny's colours are beautiful. I am probably going to get the Advent again next year. They've changed the way they are marketing it this year. Last year you paid for it each month, and each month you got 3 days. Well, that's happening the same way this year as I understand it, but it will all be posted in one go, which of course saves on postage. So the colours that I've got into it so far, I have taken 2 out to put into something else, which you will no doubt see eventually. That's kind of the middle. And the colours are inspired by a Yorkshire year. Alex and Danny live in Yorkshire, and so it's kind of the moors from spring through summer. I think I'm probably just working my way into autumn now, with an utterly beautiful colour, which is not coming up as bright as it should. That's a bit better, but you can't see the differences in colour. There's some sort of peachy pinks in there as well as the orange. It's beautiful. They're all beautiful, actually. So I've done a tiny bit on that. Wrestle that back into its bag. On Alex's Patreon, one of the ladies calls it the octopus, because it is a bit like wrestling an octopus when you get this far along. There is so much of it. And I've tried putting it on a longer cord, but the trouble is that makes it less manageable rather than more, because it just spreads itself out more. So I've ended up putting it back onto the smaller cable, and then at least you can feed it round a bit more easily. Oh. All that said, I'm planning on making at least another one. You know what I'm like. Okay, sock. Showed you my sock last week. No, that's not it. We'll get to that in a minute. Showed you my sock last week. Having shown it to you, I pulled it down again because I tried it on and it was way too big. The sock is knit from, and I gave you the wrong name last week, it is the Winter Snowdrop sock by Sarah Morris. It will be linked below. All the patterns will be linked below. And I don't think you can see terribly well the snowdrop pattern. Let's see if I stretch it out a little bit. That goes up the centre. I've got a sock ruler inside it just to make it a bit easier to show you. The pattern tells you to knit it on a 2.5mm needle, and I tried that, but it's only 2 stitches smaller than the size I would normally knit for myself. I normally knit a 64 stitch socks, and this is 62. And on the 2.5mm needle, it was just going to be loose and baggy, and I like my socks to have a bit of, I don't know why I'm doing that, some negative ease. Squeezing, I suppose. I don't know. So I pulled it down and I started again on a 2.25 needle. The pattern also has you start the lace pattern right at the toe. It's knit toe up, and you cast on, and then you straight away begin the lace pattern. I didn't fancy that. In my weirdness, here we go, into the murky depths of Mandy's peculiar brain again. In my weirdness, I can imagine my big toe poking through these lacy holes and it just being beyond uncomfortable. So I did an ordinary toe, and I used a contrast yarn. This is West Yorkshire Spinners Nutmeg. Used it for the cuff as well, and I will use it for the heel. I'm going to put in an afterthought heel because I didn't want to disturb the patterning. This is my hand-dyed yarn in the January colourway, and whilst I'm not a huge lover of this kind of flashing that's gone on, I didn't want to disrupt it, because then the top might have looked different, or the leg might have looked different to the foot, and we all know I can't cope with that, especially at the moment. So I'm going to put in an afterthought heel, which I quite like doing anyway. They fit me really well. and that will be in the nutmeg also. I weighed my yarn. I weighed what I had left in the cake, and I've got 83 grams left. So I've only used 17 of this yarn for the body of the sock, which is good because I have a plan for what's left of the yarn, and I need at least 40 grams. I have a plan. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself from last week, but people may not have seen last week. I'm making a yarn each month to tie in with Denise from Dear Designs' Year of the Sock. I'm calling it the Year of Yarn. This is February, which doesn't tie in at all because the prompt for February, this is January. I'm ready for January to be over. This is January, and the prompt for January on the Year of the Sock is Snowdrop, hence Winter Snowdrop Socks. And then my plan is each month to knit a pair of socks with the yarn I've designed for that month, and then do something else with the leftovers, so that all the Year of Yarn yarns are in a project together. I'm going to tell you about that next week, when I will hopefully have knit the other sock and cast on the secret project. No, I'm not going to tell you now. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it just in case I don't get it done this week. This is being held in this bag. Let me show you this bag. I have added a carabiner onto it because it had like a little loop thing, and it was just calling for a carabiner, and I happened to have a black one which went with it perfectly. Our Zoom group, some of us did a Secret Santa, and Amanda from Little Lycac picked me out of the hat, and all I can say is she must watch me like a hawk. I wouldn't be at all surprised to discover that she's got like secret cameras all around the house, because this bag is absolutely right up my street. When I opened it, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's a bit Halloween." What's she talking about? This isn't Halloween. This is every day. I love it. So my socks went straight into it. She also sent me, there were various things included, which I will show you as I come to them during the year, I'm sure. She also sent me 2 very beautiful skeins of yarn, which one of them is in, we're going to do a craft room tour when I've finished rabbiting at you, and you will see that I've had to have a great big sort out, and so the yarn is now, it's not unreachable, but I didn't get it out before I started, and it would be a bit of a pain to get it out now. Yes, so absolutely thrilled with my Secret Santa gifts, and I hope, well, I think she was, I hope the lady that got mine was equally thrilled. I had Tonya from Calm as the Stitch. So that's my socks. Can't tell you any more about that without spoiling the surprise. I have got a new cast on to show you. I didn't mention this last week, but I didn't get round to showing it to you. It's in a bag that I made. This is probably my favourite sock bag, for obvious reasons. Pretty sure that doesn't need explanation if you've been around a while. It's currently playing host to a Musselburgh for Dave. I'm knitting him this one out of West Yorkshire Spinners Bullfinch, I made him a pair of socks out of this a couple of years ago, and I made him a hat out of their owl yarn that he wears all the time, and I had to wrestle it off him at the weekend and wash it because he's worn it in the rain so often it was starting to get a little bit misshapen, and it needed a wash and a block again. He has got another Musselburgh that I made him, but he says the wind gets through it. I think perhaps because it's DK, whereas it doesn't get through his owl one. So I'm doing in this one. I am, as you can tell, currently on DPNs. It's about to go on to a circular needle. I was doing all right with the DPNs till I finished the increases and just started going round, and now they're annoying me. So yeah, that's going on to a circular needle probably as soon as I finish talking to you. That's all the knitting I have to show you. I did buy myself a little present. I bought myself some Stitchmarkers because, like, I haven't got 5 million already. And here they are. I actually have a pair of earrings exactly the same as these. There are six of them. And they came from the Purple Pea Pod on Etsy. I will link that below as well. She had some lovely things, but these just caught my eye. And, well, you know, I love a skull. So, as it's been a bit of a miserable couple of weeks, I have treated myself to a little present. Anything else to tell you before we start our tour? I don't think so. Right, are you ready for this? There is a bit of a mess because I've got stuff out to show you. I'm going to take you off the stand, so I'm going to pause you while I do that so I don't make anyone feel poorly. Okay, bear in mind this is not going to take us very long. It is very tiny in here. Let me turn the camera around. So here's the door. Yep, it's just a door. On the back of the door I keep my old cut-off. Those of you who are familiar with motorcyclists, it's something that you wear over your jacket, and it's kind of a scrapbook of where you've been. You can see it's got rally patches and run patches, and on the other side, apologies for the horrible noise, there are rally pins. Hang on, let me see if I can. This was not a good idea really, was it? So those were my MAG membership pins. There's, oh gosh, finger. There's a pin that I got when I passed my pharmacy exams when I worked for a particular company. Oops. And on here you can see there are a lot of missing patches that I've taken off and put onto my new cut-off, because this one is teeny tiny and I am no longer teeny tiny myself. Right, let's move this to the other hand so my finger doesn't keep getting in the way. Behind the door I have lots of books, lots of things. In those bags there to the left, those are cross-stitch threads, and one of the bags has a big project, all the threads together for it. Then there are some knitting and crochet books. Then there are some folders full of knitting and crochet patterns, and I do mean full. And in the boxes above, please ignore the mess where stuff is just shoved up there because I can't reach it. Those are full of reborn baby dolls, which I used to make and don't anymore because I've not really got any interest in collecting them. I just used to enjoy making them, and then I wasn't able to sell them, and, well, what do you do with them? There's like 2 big boxes of them, so yeah. So these are the drawers. Again, loads of miscellaneous rubbish up there, don't look at that. These are the drawers that house all sorts of things. They're sitting on a chest of drawers that have got a lot of reborn baby paints and weights and all sorts of nonsense that you need in. And then below that, hang on, excuse my finger, are these two boxes. That bottom box has got all my hand-dyed yarns in, and probably a third of it is full of yarns that I've dyed myself. So I had to buy a bigger box at the weekend for that all to go in. In the box above, that's full of things that I intend to cast on imminently, including my advent from Little Lycac that is underway, the project's underway, and yeah, that's all ready to go. It's all wound and ready to go. When I finish the anthology throw, I'll carry on with that one. And there's my chair. And Miss Poppins. And then above the chair, sorry for the wobble and the finger, is my treasure wall. That's the window. Windowsill full of stuff that I was just showing you. And then there's the desk. So on the desk you can see the stand that my camera normally sits on while I talk to you. Some biscuits in case of a nibble attack. Laptop, some project bags. The blue one there has got my Flying Fox wrap in. My sewing machine. Above the sewing machine, a mug and a notebook that I got from Alex at My Yarny Corner that are too beautiful, and I have yet to use them because I don't want to spoil them. Being guarded by, of course, a tiny Mr. Spock. Behind him is a bowl of green yarn that got very, very tangled up when I pulled my twists and turns down, and has sat in there since October waiting for me to untangle it and ball it up. I have found a million other things to do instead. Then beside the desk, stroke behind the desk, this is full of clothes for said reborn babies. There's all the notelets and things from people who sent me stuff. You can just see there behind the desk, if I move my stupid finger, there, that is the oven that you cure the paint for the reborn babies in. The reason I have all those boxes of clothes is that when you sell a doll, people expect it to come with a load of accessories. So I collected them all in sales and what have you, and then stopped selling the dolls, and I don't really want to get rid of them. Underneath the desk, that is quite a large box full of all my fingering scraps, and it is full. I couldn't get another scrap in there. And behind the bin, pile of magazines, all marked with patterns that I want to make. Sewing box. And then moving along the shelving, yarn stash. This is mostly, that top box has got wool yarns in, apart from the very bright pink. This is mostly my acrylic yarn stash. On the sort of rack thing there are projects that I'm working on. This is the shelf of shame. That's where all the projects that are left over from last year are sitting and glaring at me. Chair with the bag from the lovely Raylene, who's the crafty Kiwi. That's got my, not shawlography, the other one, Slipstravaganza in. My little table is full of the Aurora cabin shawl. More wool shoved down behind. This shelf, which you can't really see, probably for the best, and that shelf have sewing stuff on, and there, where's my finger? There, that's my overlocker, which is possessed and only likes Dave. Another chest of drawers. Top two drawers are full of commercial sock yarn, which I've collected over the years. The middle drawer has got Christmas sock yarn in and project bags. It's covered in stickers because it used to be Ewan's chest of drawers, and he covered it in stickers when he was at school. And when he gave it to me, I started peeling the stickers off, as you can probably see on that bottom drawer. And he got very upset, so I've had to leave the stickers on. And we have a rack full of all sorts of nonsense. And then this crate here basically contains the yarn business. And now Poppy wants to go out the door. Only because the door is closed. So we're back to the door again. So, there you go. Craft room tour. Not very thrilling. This room is, tiny. You can just about get a single bed where I'm sitting. It touches the wall either side. And it's probably... You could probably get a double bed in here if you didn't want to open the door too wide. That's how big the room is. It's not very big at all. But it serves its purpose, and if it were any bigger, I would just collect more stuff, wouldn't I? So it's probably just as well it's only this size. As it is, I've had to buy another big crate this weekend, and this one, the one that's sitting on top of the big crate, I also had to buy. I am a little concerned that they're in front of the window and that the light might get to the yarn. So I'm going to have to work my way through it a bit quicker, aren't I? And try and remember to angle the blind so that the sun doesn't come in. Which I can do, but I'm not sure about. Sorry, I've just seen something. I don't know what it is. It's a bit of plastic, I think. Yeah, so that's all I have to show you this week. A very poor amount of knitting done. You can blame the yarn dyeing for that. And the fact that I had to tidy up my craft room. And you've had a tour of the craft room, which you wouldn't have got had I not tidied it up. Because frankly, there wouldn't have been room for me to move around in it to show you anything. So, yeah. Least said about that, the better, I think. So, I'm going to go. I will see you next week. I will hopefully have the socks finished and the secret project started. And who knows, I might have even finished something else. Unlikely, but it's a possibility. So, thank you once again, everyone who's ordered. It is very much appreciated. And apologies to the American ladies who might just have to wait a little bit longer than everyone else. That piece of hair is back while Royal Mail sort themselves out. But I will, if necessary, communicate with you two ladies later if I have to, if things don't go according to plan. Other than that, shop is still open. Yarn is still on a dye to order basis. Oh, seriously, that was because I could see the steam, I suppose it would be, from next door's boiler vent. I don't know what the right words are. And it just sucked my brain. What little brain there is, anyway. I think, let me just consult my diary. Yes, possibly next week I should have the February. You've already seen the February Year of Yarn. and I should have the other 2 yarns that I want to release in February ready, and there's another one that I want to re-release on a die to order basis. Should have all those for you next week. Okay, that really is everything I have to tell you. Poppy, who made her appearance, has now left the building, so clearly I've talked for too long, and I'm going to go in that case, because if she's bored with me, you almost certainly are as well. So I will go. I will see you next week. Until I see you, have a great week. Happy knitting. Bye, guys.